Spiderman, where are you coming from, Spiderman? Nobody knows who you are.
Except everyone knows who you are, otherwise we wouldn't have a movie.
And if you want to know where I got the idea for that song, click the little eye in the eye icon on the corner of the video right now. Anyway, welcome back to StillerBros at the movies, ladies and gentlemen. And today is probably one of the most anticipated movies of the year.
For many reasons, including the fact that 2 years ago, this didn't seem like it was possible that we were going to get this movie in this form.
Once again, we're going to be talking a lot, just like our Suicide Squad video.
Good thing we're far from home. Fuck!
But anyway, guys, in case you haven't guessed, today we are going to be seeing Spider-Man: No Way Home. So, about 4 years ago, Spider-Man entered the MCU with Spider-Man Homecoming.
And then, about 2 years ago, Spider-Man had his second solo installment in the MCU with Spider-Man Far From Home.
Now,
where, at the end, spoilers, Spider-Man's secret identity was revealed to the world.
By J. Jonah Jameson, played by one of the best actors working today, J.K. Simmons.
Fuck yeah.
Anyway, after that, we were all kind of left twisting in the wind what was going to happen with Marvel. Now, Marvel had a whole plan on how they were going to do this, but then the world ended.
Kind of, for fans anyway, because Sony decided that after Kevin Feige got all of his toys back, they were like, I'm taking my ball and I'm going home, fucker.
It's not your ball.
I paid for it, it's mine.
Anyway, so after basically negotiating in the press for about 2-3 weeks or so, from Marvel and Disney finally got Sony to pony up the rights to Spider-Man for at least one more movie.
And we can kind of contribute this to the fact that Tom Holland drunk-dialed the CEO of Disney.
But it's also the fact that logically, they couldn't have made a third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie without the MCU. These movies are built to be in the MCU. You take that away, suddenly everything falls apart. There's a whole the whole character in this form has been built on the back of the MCU. The last movie was basically them trying to say he's not Iron Man. Was him comparing himself to Iron Man and then coming to the terms with the fact that he's not Iron Man, he's Spider-Man. But regardless, Disney finally got the chance to team up with Sony for one more Spider-Man movie.
Well, now 3 more because they apparently renewed the rights.
Apparently they got most recently we got a rumor that they had 3 more movies to set up after this one. So I guess that means no matter what happens at the end of this one, the Tom Holland Peter Parker lives
in some form or another. Anyway,
so what else is there to say about this movie? Tom Holland is back as Peter Parker. Jacob Batalon is back as Ned, and for whatever reason, he lost a bunch of weight in order to be in this movie. We have no clue why. Zendaya is back as MJ, and
they're of course being adorable, and they've of course spent the last 2 years being kind of sort of adorable on Instagram. And then former YouTube independent filmmaker John Watts becomes the first Marvel director to complete the trilogy. Anyway, speaking of YouTubers and wanting to make Marvel stuff, we gotta talk about this for a second.
For those of you who are new to these videos, we should probably explain why we started doing this show back in September. So ideally, we would like to write and possibly direct a TV series based on the fan favorite Marvel character Gwenpool. So, like with Simu Liu tweeting out that he'd like to become a Marvel superhero, and then it happening, and then Rachel Ziegler, her tweeting out that she would like to be nominated for a Golden Globe, and then it happening. We're not necessarily saying we want this to be a big campaign. We're just essentially putting it out into the universe.
We're just putting it out into the universe. Like, maybe this will be somewhere. I mean, we're not adorable little Puerto Rican girl like Rachel Ziegler, or
or charismatic as all hell Asian guy like Simu Liu, but you know, people shoot this kind of stuff out in the universe all the time, and sometimes stuff happens. Either way, what we're not saying we want you to torture some poor social media manager of the Marvel Twitter account by going full Snyder stan on them. We're just essentially saying that if anyone within earshot of this video happens to have a direct line to Marvel Studio head Kevin Feige, we would very much like to have a conversation.
Just one Skype meeting. That's all we ask.
Zoom.
Just one Zoom meeting. That's all we ask.
Anyway, back to the actual project that we should be talking about in this video about Spider-Man.
There is one thing that everybody is talking about with this movie, and that is the villains.
Villains, plural. And not only are these villains big, not only is this a big thing for Spider-Man villains, these villains are big for not just for their comic book creations, but the fact that we've seen these villains before in more ways than one.
We have seen, because we have the triumphant returns of Alfred Molina, Willem Dafoe, and Jamie Foxx, among others.
Yes, the Spider-Man villains from the Raimi trilogy, the Spider-Man villains from the web movies. Because Spider-Man Far From Home, No Way Home is a multiverse movie. Now, does this mean that it is directly connected with Across the Spider-Verse, the upcoming sequel to Into the Spider-Verse? We don't know that yet, because we haven't seen the movie yet, and also, we're not dicks who spoil stuff, so we're not going to tell you anything, and even the stuff that we supposedly already know.
We do know that it does link into Multiverse of Madness, though, because we do have Benedict Cumberbatch coming in to play Doctor Strange.
And also Benedict Wong as a quick little cameo as Wong, probably explaining what he was doing in the lead up to Shang-Chi, or in some kind of lead up after Shang-Chi.
But hey, more Wong is there's never
two Wongs make a right.
Get out.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But the more Wong, the better in this world, because we got him in 3 movies within the span of about a 12-month period.
But anyway, along for the ride is Michael Giacchino, writing the score one more time. We've got on the screenwriters Eric Summers and Chris McKenna are also back for the third time, making them also the second round of writers to complete their trilogy.
Yes. The first obviously being Marcus and McFeely, who are awesome, and it's so exciting to see them continue to work with the Russo brothers.
And yeah, basically this is the closer for the year for Marvel. They've got the last episode of Hawkeye last week, which, how good was that episode of Hawkeye?
I know, right? Too bad good thing we're not going to spoil it.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to spoil it by saying that Hawkeye dies halfway through the 5th episode.
I know. Oh.
That was a test! You failed!
You embarrassed yourself
in front of her!
You don't get that reference. If you do, then we spoiled it for you.
Sorry.
But if you don't get that reference, you'll get it in a second.
But anyway, Spider-Man No Way Home is a big deal.
This is a culmination of 20 years of Spider-Man films, almost 20 years of Spider-Man films, because next year is the 20th anniversary of Spider-Man. Fuck, we're old.
We're so old. Anyway, but also, this is a big deal because it's also going to be an adaptation of a Spider-Man story that is not particularly well liked. Because with Spider-Man's identity revealed, we're kind of in the world of Spider-Man One Moment in Time,
as well as kind of sort of
One More Day.
Probably one of the most universally hated storylines of all time, One More Day.
One More Day being the storyline in which Peter Parker sells his marriage to the devil in order to save Aunt May. Keep in mind, Aunt May in the comics is like 80,
and she was shot by a sniper.
So, and apparently nobody in the Marvel universe can heal a bullet wound. Not Reed Richards, not Doctor Strange, not Doctor Doom.
He goes all over the place.
Not Mr. Weird, not the Turquoise Troll, not the supervisors of the solar system. These stolen jokes doing it for you?
There's gonna be a lot of stolen jokes, guys. Get used to it.
But we have faith in Marvel. Like we said last time we did this, when we did the previous installment, we have faith that Marvel can actually take this widely reviled storyline and actually do something actually good with it. So the original Civil War comic was not particularly great, but they took the title and certain parts of the basic premise and they made it a fantastic movie.
Speaking of fantastic, it's going to be interesting to see if John Watts will be putting in any little subtext to his next Marvel project.
That's right, because John Watts is already hooked on to a new Marvel franchise after this, which kind of leaves the door open for who is going to be directing the next Spider-Man movies. But John Watts will be directing, because John Watts is directing the new Fantastic Four movie,
which we assume he's going to start working. We're going to get some more news on shortly after this movie is finished. Shortly after this movie, he's done promoting this movie.
And John Watts, if you're watching, we humbly suggest the casting of Ross Lynch as the Human Torch and Seth Rogen as the Thing. Yes. Think about it.
Also ask Kevin Feige to call us.
Also, I'd like a pony. Anyway, we have rambled, we have gone on and on and on, and yeah, Spider-Man, No Way Home, we think it's fantastic, it looks great, we hope that it is great, and we will see if it's great and tell you guys all about it after the jump. See this movie immediately. What are you still doing watching this video? Just turn it off. Go!
Get the fuck into the movie theater now! Okay, now that we're through with that.
Oh, wow, this parking lot seems a little more complicated than I thought it was. It's almost like there's no way home.
Yeah.
There. Happy?
Yeah, we had to do that for somebody. You know who you are.
Anyway, so, after that beautiful recommendation, what can be said about No Way Home other than maybe stop watching the video right now if you don't want to be spoiled, because we can't because we're going to try our damnedest not to say anything that people don't already know, but we're going to...
Things could slip out. We're not going to promise anything because fuck, I'm so stressed right now.
Yeah, and we have to go to bed immediately after this. So, once again, if you want to go in as clean as you possibly can, turn off the video now, get a screening, come back. We will still be, I guarantee you, we will still be here because that's how YouTube videos typically work. We will I'll give you like 10 seconds to just go, turn off the video, and then just come back. We just guarantee that you will love this movie if you are even remotely a fan of Spider-Man, or the Marvel Universe in general. For everyone else who is left, this movie is amazing. I want to say things like, stay through the credits. What the hell are you still doing? Over a decade after the MCU started making it important to stay through all the credits, that you're not staying through all of the credits.
Yes. Now, this movie is probably the best MCU Spider-Man we have ever gotten.
I laughed, I cried, I cheered, but you know what I didn't do? I didn't take my fucking camera out and film a piece of it and then upload it to YouTube like a dick, while knowing that that there are so many people who have not seen any of it and want to go in clean. I don't get why people do that. Why do people spoil movies when they go to advanced screenings? We went to an advanced screening earlier this year for the Suicide Squad, and you know what we didn't do? Film it!
Yeah. So, with that little PSA out of the way, let's get into a little bit more detail. Tom Holland is fucking phenomenal in this.
Every second he's on, he is very much going into the. It was kind of amazing that he's going back into Peter Parker after all the roles that after all the different other roles he's been playing over the last 2 years since he last played Spider-Man, but he slides right back into it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's working with that him and Zendaya are back together again. The chemistry is still crackling, and they're still back in that comfort zone of we know how these characters work, so we're just going to keep playing them.
Jacob Batalon is obviously great as a little comic relief, but you guys know what we want to talk about right now, and that is villains.
So, Alfred Molina is amazing as Dr. Octopus, but you already knew that. Jamie Foxx is electric as Electro, but you already knew that. But Willem Dafoe is a standout amongst the villain crowd this time around because he's 66.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind when you're watching some of the action scenes he has to do. He's 66.
And he is doing most of his own stunts and most of his own action.
Apparently, this was at his own request. And it's kind of amazing that 20 years later, he can still slide back into the Goblin as easily as anyone would have expected throughout the entirety of the Raimi trilogy. There's a lot of people who have not 100% been confirmed throughout the trailers, so we're not going to touch them. Just know that the fantastic cameos throughout the movie, whether they be major or minor, are just fantastic. It's great to see, it's great to see them, and I hope to see more. And I don't know if we're going to see more of some of them, but we're going to see more of a bunch of them.
And then Marissa Tomei is great as Aunt May, as she has been the last time, but she has a slightly bigger role this time around.
This time around, she's not just Peter's basically dorky aunt who kind of goes around and is like, I'm going to teach you to dance to songs from my childhood, which was the 80s now, which is like the 80s and 70s now, but now, or I'm going to have a summer fling with Happy Hogan, who also Jon Favreau is so hilarious in his scenes, as is Tony Revolori as Flash Thompson. I reiterate my statement from Far From Home. I love the fact that the Flash Thompson of the MCU is essentially what if Superbad era Jonah Hill played the Paul brothers.
Yes.
And others. With John Watts, this is not basically a John Hughes comedy again. This is a comedy again, which I'm not saying as a knock on the first two movies. I love the fact that the first two Spider-Man movies were basically John Hughes comedies with superhero scenes in them. But this time around, he knows that he needs to make it a big epic. It needs to be a big Spider-Man movie that tells a huge story of multiversal proportions. And knowing that he can go from the small comedic moments with dialogue and banter back and forth to the big, incredible, visually spectacular, mind-bending visuals. The Fantastic Four is in fantastic hands.
Yeah. And obviously, the big thing now is we don't know where Spider-Man's going from here, guys.
Last time there was a comic book blueprint that we could at least follow. Here, I don't know where it's going to go. We honestly don't know. We honestly don't know much about where the comics could go, where there's any comic book storylines even resembling this that they could play around with. If there is, that would be great. But we don't know. We don't know. We don't know where the creators could go with this. But the fact is that this is kind of a way that they could. That it feels like they knew that they remembered that the contract was kind of on the rocks, and they didn't know what they were going to do, so they just kind of left it kind of open, and kind of left it just open enough that they could keep going with it, but also so that they can kind of close the door in case they can't have Spider-Man for any future Avengers movies.
Yeah. However, we do have doors open for other stuff in the MCU, specifically with stuff that we know that will be leading into the next Marvel movie coming out, which unfortunately now is May.
No, May is in the movie.
You know what I mean. He's coming.
Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is set up big time in this movie. Doctor Strange is not in the movie as much as you would think. This isn't basically what everyone was thinking, where it's like, he's got he had Downey in the first one, Jackson in the second one, so Cumberbatch is going to be his daddy in this one. But basically Doctor Strange kind of goes away in about halfway through the second act due to reasons. It doesn't show up again until the big finale.
Yeah, but there's a lot of but there's just so much to love about this movie. I love it. I can't believe I got to see it. I can't believe I saw it. I'm never gonna believe it. I can't wait to talk to people about it. So, reiterating, go see this fucking movie ASAP.
This is fantastic. The score is by Michael Giacchino is fantastic. It's amazing. It's amazing the way it incorporates scores from the Raimi trilogy, the Webb movies, and continues the motifs of the John Watts series. And
it has obviously some hits of Doctor Strange because he wrote the Doctor Strange score.
It's great to see all these characters coming together again. A lot of these characters coming together again. It's great to see the villains have comedic banter with each other when they're like as if they're old friends. Even if it kind of raises the question of, wait, did you two ever actually meet or wait, how did everyone know that? But you kind of ignore it because it's just amazing because your verisimilitude should not be compromised by that when the plot of the movie revolves around this guy who shoots webs out of his wrists, asking the wizard who brainwashed the entire universe, and instead he accidentally pulls a bunch of people from other dimensions.
Yeah.
Your dimensions. This should not be small little plot hiccups. Should not be your major hang-up here.
Yes.
But it's just, God, this movie is so good. Spider-Verse, I'm gonna keep going with that. Spider-Verse is better than this, but I still think that this might be the best MCU Spider-Man movie, and it's like what we said in our Endgame video. Most of the third act is fan service, but boy, is it fan service that works!
And I'm just gonna say it now. Sorry, Suicide Squad, but this is my favorite movie of the year.
It might just it finally got dethroned. It finally got taken down. You had a long run, Suicide Squad, but at least you're still. But it doesn't mean you're a bad movie. It just means that you're not. It just means that you're not as viscerally satisfying as this new Spider-Man movie.
I'm so excited to see where the character goes. I'm so excited to see what happens next. But again, stay through the credits because you'll get a little sneak peek at something that's probably going to drop on Monday.
So anyway, guys, that's it for right now. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and tune in next time when manners maketh man.